Hello, and today we'll be hosting the Denver Real Estate State of Economy webinar. We are glad to have Robert August from North Star Synergies join us today. His expertise over the last 40 years in the commercial real estate industry in Denver is absolutely unparalleled. He was named Developer of the Year back in '79. He put together the Parade of Homes, which has been one of the largest events, with the original one being done with Department of Energy and was attended by over 125,000 people. He's a true staple and a pioneer of the real estate and construction industry in Denver. Myself, I am with Paradigm Next, and we provide sales and marketing services for the built world. We help companies in the construction and the real estate space catalyze their growth. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this off to Robert August to introduce himself, and we'll dive right into what 2020 was like for us and what we should expect from 2021.
It's a pleasure to be here, and we have so much to be thankful for as I share to be above grade and enjoying Colorado, at this particular time as we close out 2020 and begin 2021. We're all very, very thankful to be here, beating COVID every day. And there's so many different directions that we've learned to adapt within the real estate industry. It's absolutely phenomenal to see how everyone has responded since March with regard to lockdowns, with regard to quarantine, with regard to the fact that our industry is an essential industry to Colorado. And we're very grateful to Governor Polis, who's done a phenomenal job helping to really educate us along with the media in order to be a safer, secure, and a healthier public population. What do we have in store? What do we have in store? Well, we are doing much better than originally projected for housing sales in Colorado in 2020. Why? Well, there are a couple of reasons. Lumber and material supplies have been accessible, even though lumber exceeded prices well over 300% escalation, and other building materials have risen by 8 to 12%, depending upon the product. But what's been the key saving aspect is the fact that, number one, people realize that if they don't buy today, they're going to be priced out of the market. Renters are actually spending more money on a 2-bedroom townhome or apartment building within the Denver Tech Center. They're spending anywhere between $2,500 and $3,500 just for a 2-bedroom rental. And what's so fascinating, you can equate that into a purchase on a $600,000 loan today with principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So the key factor in our discussion with regard to the continued growth of existing homes and the sale of new homes is the fact that the interest rates are now well below 3%. And there are different levels of interest programs, whether it's a 15, 20, 25, 30-year mortgage. And as a result, you can really create a program that's more beneficial for you at a much lower rate. You're listening to someone who actually sold real estate in Colorado with interest rates at 16% just for a mortgage, 21% for a construction loan back in the mid 80s. And I've got to tell you, it's a big difference. Nobody would believe me today if I told them, Anatoly, that I sold real estate at 13, 14, 16%. They'd look at me like I was nuts. And they can't relate to it. But the real fascinating thing is that we have the lowest rates that we've had in well over 50 years. And that's stimulating the economy, not only here, but all over the United States. So if you choose to move to another environment, you're going to find that you are going most likely into a depleted real estate inventory market. And why are people doing, why are they growing into these different directions? Well, our millennials were a little bit later in getting married or settling down with a significant other. And as a result, another trend that we're seeing in 2020 and also into 2021, we're seeing younger people who may not be ready to tie the knot, so to speak, and get married, but we're seeing friends commingle and buy real estate together. The same way that we watched the TV show Friends for years and saw couples and friends that would move into an apartment, 3, 4, 6 people living together. And now we're seeing the same thing in a purchase mode. Another interesting aspect is that as a result of well-care facilities, assisted living facilities being so expensive and costly, we're now seeing a boomerang factor. Anatoly, you're familiar with millennials and Generation Z, where they would move back into the home in 2008, 9, and 10, when the market got so devastating from an economic deterrent that we were literally in a depression. And we had the boomerang of the children coming back. Today, we're seeing the boomerang of the parents coming back. So it's almost like a throwback to when we had 3 and 4 generations living in a home in the United States. We've had it with certainly with the Asian population, the Latino population, but now we're seeing it with all diverse backgrounds, and we're seeing a paradigm shift where families are actually buying homes today where 3 and 4 generations are living, and they're pooling their economic resources because they're finding out, again, to move to independent care, to well care, to assisted care living, you could be spending easily anywhere between $3,500 and $15,000 a month, depending upon the level of care and the type of institution that you're moving to. So you can live for pennies on the dollar by comparison, in the ability to combine homes, and it's really good for children also. Sociologically, we found over the years that by bringing a closer knit family together within the generations, it's making a huge difference.
And I'm sure COVID played a role in this too, because people that were separated, living in multiple households, couldn't visit each other, realized that just how much easier and how much it'll bring to the family dynamic for the grandkids to spend time with their grandparents, being able to live in one home. So beyond the economic, I think the personal level was also shadowed this past year.
You're 100% correct, and it also bodes well for corporations, technological corporations. I mean, today you and I are having an interview using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WebEx. And these technologies have improved dramatically, where we can see one another as if we're sitting in the same room together. And that's added a tremendous amount of value for our personal socialization, as well as our business development. Unfortunately, there are so many people that have been in quarantine or have not been in social contact in physical meetings. And what this technology has been able to do is spike the economic development of our country and other countries alike. We're doing business, if you can imagine, a result of COVID-19, as a result of the economy. We're conducting business, Anatoly, in Australia, New Zealand, Italy, Peru, Ecuador, different countries around the globe, Chile, Guatemala. We're conducting business in Mexico. Yesterday, I had a meeting with gentlemen from Colorado. One gentleman was actually in Leadville, had gone to Leadville for the holidays. Family had grown up in Leadville, and he's in a wonderful retreat cabin that he enjoys. Another party was from Mexico. Another one was from the New York City metro area. And then there was my son, Jason August, who's in the real estate and consulting business with us, and myself. And it's as if we were all in the same room, at a lesser expense. And at the same time, when you think of all the traveling that we're not doing right now. It's giving us the ability to actually conduct more business in a shorter period of time. But at the same time, we can have more meetings and be more fruitful. And as you learned, Anatoly, coming to Colorado, you have the best of all worlds, where you can live, work, and play the same day. Most people back in the Northeast, where I originated from, I'm from a suburb of New York, as you can tell from my accent. I'm from Philadelphia. And in essence, the overall aspect, we typically would put in 10, 12-hour days for working. And here, since coming here many, many years ago, we've been able to enjoy the outdoors, been able to get out and exercise, and do it religiously on a daily basis. So the lifestyle environment of Colorado on a comparable basis is second to none. And you were able to share, earlier, your experiences. And why don't you share with some of the audience today your feeling of Colorado and what it means to you and your family?
Colorado is absolutely wonderful. We've loved every minute of being here for all the reasons you mentioned. Is that on the one hand, you're in a major metropolitan city, you're next to an international airport, which right now is not getting the use that it deserves. Hopefully next year will be busier. But at the same time, you're 20 minutes away from being in the mountains. Your range of weather options, we have a 20-degree span of weather that we can choose on any day. If we want it to be a little bit cooler, we go west, warmer, we go east. The views, the health elements and so forth have been phenomenal. And like you mentioned, Zoom and just in general, remote working, years ago when Elon Musk just started building the Hyperloop, I was thinking to myself that it's going to change the dynamic of the way that we live. Because if we can get from Chicago to New York in an hour on a train, there's not going to be really a reason for people, not as much of a reason for people to live in the major metropolitan areas. And we're going to have a lot more buildup in rural areas. The Hyperloop hasn't come to fruition yet, but I feel like Zoom has replaced a lot of that. A lot of the work can be done remotely. We are meeting with people in New York and Mexico and Australia remotely. First of all, it's giving us a lot of free time that we didn't have before, that we would normally be spending on commuting to the meetings, from the meeting to the office and so forth. But more importantly, location of where we live, we now have the flexibility to choose where we live. And between, like you mentioned, the low interest rates right now, the low property taxes in Colorado, or at least as they compare to Illinois or New York or some of the other states that we're seeing an influx of migration from, your dollar goes a lot further here, and the lifestyle is just a lot healthier, a lot more enjoyable. There's a lot more options on what you can do. With COVID, especially this year, made us all realize that it's not the restaurant that we so much crave, but it's activities. It's things to be able to go outside and do something and meet with people in a safe and in a healthy fashion. And I feel that I can't imagine any state providing that better than Colorado. Maybe California when you go further east away from the major cities, but in Colorado, from a COVID standpoint, from a social distancing and being able to continue living life and enjoying life, I couldn't imagine a better place. So I understand why there is a lot of positive population growth in this state that began long before COVID, and I think will continue long after it's gone. This brought a lot of challenges in general and a lot of opportunities. So one of the opportunities is that we are seeing people moving here. Another one of the opportunities is I think a lot of the people that live more in the urban city environments are right now kind of spreading their wings and either looking for second homes that are further out from the major metropolitan areas, or are starting their migration out to the suburbs, especially young people that weren't really considering it before, due to, first of all, wanting more space and more land. But on the space side of things, living in a city, you're limited by the cost per square foot, which is typically higher. And after people spend some months at home, they realize they need more room for their kids, they need more room to get work done. And there's just a lot more movement that's depleted a lot of the inventory. So it's definitely become a seller's market. What have you seen as some of the challenges? So I know that with the tariffs and lumber costs going up, that was a problem. There was, at least a temporary shutdown of construction. While the construction industry itself might have been considered an essential service, I know there were problems with material suppliers, with shipping, with a lot of other issues along the way. This year as compared to other years, how would you say it panned out? Did the positives outweigh the negatives purely from an industry standpoint? Obviously, it was a rough year, but from a construction development and growth of this market standpoint, what's your take on the over under?
Well, I would share with you. There's other things too. There's a tremendous amount of stress from a political perspective, and at the not only at the local level but at the national level, and it's springboarded to the local level with regard to government restrictions, with a lot of no growth initiatives that continue to plague Colorado, and as a result, it takes longer, Anatoly, for a particular community to be developed in an entitlement process here than it does in other parts of the United States. So, the good news is there's a tremendous demand. We have a number of different issues that we have to pay attention to. Although we produce the major water for the Midwest and the Southwest, so much of our water goes to other states through senior water rights. And one of the issues that we continue to have is that in metropolitan Denver, most people don't realize there are hundreds and hundreds of water districts. It's not just one. I mean, there is a major water district in the Denver, through the Denver Water Department that's from the city of Denver. But for the most part, water is liquid gold. And as a result, it drives the price of land up because you have to have water rights in order to develop the land. And so, as time goes by, we can't necessarily build as much as we probably would like to, in the form of getting permit fees for water, for sewer, for buildings as a result of that. So it will continue to create an inflationary program here within the state, as it has for well over 100 years. Some of the other trends that you will see, and the prices of water vary dramatically from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So you'll see where there is more water, where there is more ability to do a great job, you'll have an opportunity to grow your business platform. I had the good fortune of visiting with Frank Walker, the president of Lennar Homes. And Frank has done a phenomenal job becoming the #1 builder throughout Colorado over the last several years. And it's interesting, they're building, the company is now building in Elizabeth, which is, there are different levels. You referred to the suburbs. And within the different rings around metropolitan Denver, we have 34 jurisdictions, 34 cities, hamlets, as well as unincorporated counties. We have 8 counties now within the metropolitan area. And what's so fascinating is that people are now building residential homes in the areas of Elizabeth and all over Douglas County where they can, and east in Adams County, that's east of the International Airport. So we continue to see growth to the north and to the south. The west, where you reside in the Evergreen area, there's not as much growth potential because of the water issue, where so much of the water is going to other jurisdictions and other areas. Most of our water, whether it's through the Colorado River, the Arkansas, the Platte is the biggest, surprisingly, one of the biggest providers of water, and basically waters the Midwest. If you can imagine, the folks in St. Louis get our water and have it much less expensive than we have, and yet, it's because of senior water rights. So I can share with you, when I come back in my next life, I'm coming back as a water attorney, so I can earn $10,000 an hour, just an hour. But getting into some of the other trends, I would share with you, as I spoke about the population and the rings around the city, I came up with two other areas. Beyond the suburbs, I have created a zone called urban rural. And so it's right after the suburbs. There are less services, a little bit more acreage per home. The homes are more, in many instances, are less expensive than the suburbs, but not by much. And then there's another ring that comes around as you get south of Castle Rock, and you are in areas like Franktown, south of Parker, and Larkspur, et cetera. You can find wonderful homes through northern Colorado Springs at a lot less expense. And I would refer to that area as rural urban. So, the takeaway is that more people want more acreage, and it's not necessarily the size of the home. We're not seeing McMansions being built. We're seeing large homes to an extent, but not to the extent that we saw in the 90s and the early 2000s. So people are much more attuned to using every cubic foot than not just every square foot. And it's also evoking changes throughout architectural design, where folks are looking at their homes, having spent the last 10 months indoors in most instances, where they've been doing office work, et cetera, from home. They realize that they need more cabinetry, more pantries, that they need storage for packages and areas for the packages to be delivered safely. And we're seeing the integration of larger master bathroom suites again with the inclusion of bidets. And the bidet, which has never been a favored feature, is now in certain price points becoming a standard feature. So you're going to continue to see a tremendous direction in remodeling, which has also pushed the pricing for new construction, because those folks who are living in an existing home that are improving it within a neighborhood are also taking building materials that would have been used for commercial and residential. So trends that we see, most people don't realize that the powder room, for example, evolved as a result of the Spanish flu that started to take place in 1918. And why? The powder room was at the front of the home. In many of the homes that you and I have been to where powder rooms are accessible, they're usually in an entry area near the front door. And why? Because people were concerned about receiving packages in 1918, in 1920, 100 years ago. So the powder room became an evolution, so that in many homes today, we have 2.5, 3.5 bathrooms, and that half bathroom, that powder room, is typically in the front of the home. We're going to continue to see more changes. We're going to see the lower levels become finished in many instances, maybe not directly by a home builder, but a remodeler will come in shortly after and continue to improve the lower level of the home, because basements in Colorado are used extensively for living square footage. And there are many windows, garden level opportunities, and wonderful access to the outdoors. We're going to continue to see larger windows introduced into the home. We're going to see more quality products delivered as well. Some of the other things that the trends that you are going to see. We've evolved over the last 40 years here in Colorado. Energy conservation became extremely important, and green building started to take place, if you can imagine, back in 1973 with the oil embargoes that took place. We had another spike in 1981 when we had additional oil embargoes. And if you can imagine the equivalent of the cost of $1 today versus 1981, the cost was about $12.50 for a gallon of gas. And today, a gallon of gas is very, very inexpensive. But you can see as a result, energy efficiency became very key. We started having double pane windows as standard. We now are looking triple pane glazed windows for many of our homes that are being built in the upper price points. So you're going to continue to see energy efficiency in order to stabilize pricing for the maintenance of the home. Because the better that the home is insulated and is driven with energy efficiency through better furnaces and filtration and purification, you're creating a better indoor lifestyle. Most people don't realize that we spend over 90% of our time indoors as a nation. And here we're lucky in Colorado to get outdoors and enjoy the crisp air, and enjoy the difference in temperatures, as you alluded to a short time ago. But what's so fascinating is that our indoor technology has gotten better. And as a result, health and wellness is also beyond a tipping point. Health and wellness is a major concern. There's several builders who are certified as health and wellness builders through the a series of different certifications. You're going to see more builders with wellness within your walls certification, like Nicholas Custom Homes and Joyce Homes, where protocols are being created and have been created to eliminate toxins and off-gassing in homes as a result of living in a healthier environment. You're going to see more water filtration systems integrated to give us pure water, pure drinking and showering water. You're going to continue to see an amazing direction of smart technology. A new company called Swidget is developing technology for various apps so that you can monitor the humidity in your home right now, the temperature, the barometric pressure, a whole host of different things, and also control all of the switches within a home that relate to dimming your lights, turning on your lights, and being 1,000 miles away and being able to turn your lights on, or being able to help to turn on the oven, or see what's in a refrigerator. If your children or relatives are still using the home, you can now see if you need orange juice or milk, or related products, vegetables, etc., just by looking inside your refrigerator or your freezer with regard to the cameras that are now integrated into appliances. So a lot of the technology is there for health and wellness. New universal design. We spoke earlier about the boomerang factor. Universal design is a concept where you can utilize your creativity so that you can age in place gracefully and enjoy the home, whether you're 28 or whether you're 88. And as a result, we're seeing wider hallways, wider doorways in case you're in need of a wheelchair. We're seeing lower door handles. We're seeing many people buying appliances with the knobs in the front of the ovens rather than in the back, so that they're easy to reach. Cabinetry that is also easy to access. And a number of different aspects. So all of these different trends are accelerating, especially now that we're living in the homes longer and considering to stay longer. We also saw a trend where people are living in homes longer. And unfortunately, changes take place with death or divorce. And we're seeing people also sociologically learning how to live together, learning how to compromise again. And I think that it's a wonderful trend because it goes all the way from the family to the business community to the social environment and the welfare, of taking care of other folks and helping to reach out. Colorado also, per capita income, a couple of things that are interesting. You spoke about health. I think we have more vitamin and supplement sales per individual than almost anywhere else in the United States. Additionally, we have more people who are usually more educated regardless of just the degrees. The degrees are amazing with so many people here who take the time to get an undergraduate and a graduate and a postgraduate degree. And as a result, they've chosen this lifestyle, but our educational network throughout the school districts, our public schools in many instances are just as good as private schools or parochial or charter schools. And as a result, the attention given to the students makes a big difference. We have found in our business throughout the years that we've been here and also in other markets, education is so important. And again, I applaud all of the schools, whether they're locally or they're colleges or any aspect. Our educators do a great job in bringing a quality of life to education in all age ranges, not just from kindergarten through 12th grade. And it's a phenomenal aspect where we have so many senior citizens taking college courses and online courses to improve themselves. And I think that with where the market is going in 2021, again, we're going to do extremely well. We'll have more remodeling. We'll have more home sales. There's a demand to live here, of course, but the cost of owning a single family home in most of metropolitan Denver is averaging right now around $650,000. The good news is we anticipate having low interest rates hovering around 3% over the next year. We also see that the interest rates as a result, unfortunately, we have also seen more poverty, more people going into poverty than in recent years as well, due to the problems of the layoffs due to COVID, and a lot of the service workers are in need of getting back into the employment arena. And so as a result, you're going to see a continuation of low interest rates as long as our poverty rates are at a much higher level than they should be. And we anticipate, unfortunately, being in a situation where we're not going to find equilibrium or stability for another 3 years with the entire employment sector. So as a result, our middle management, our middle class is doing well. The upper classes, et cetera, are all doing well. We need to get everybody back and employed again, because it also drives the need for more housing and more shelter and more commercial and more retail. And there's another adage: we continue to grow our population through immigration as well as, of course, birth. And there was an outstanding land planner and architect who said to me one day, and actually helping him put together a keynote speak in Budapest many years ago on behalf of the National Association of Home Builders, and Construma, which is the equivalent to the National Association of Home Builders in Hungary and Romania and Czechoslovakia. And Charles Choi said, as long as people are going to have sex, Anatoly, there will be a need for real estate. So it's an ongoing basis, and we see that taking place, again in 2021. We see a lot of opportunity for the industry in all product points. We'll see more what we call paired housing or duplexes being built in the metropolitan area. We'll see more townhomes where people can have ingress and egress. So if there is another outbreak like a COVID situation again, or if it unfortunately continues for one reason or another, there's a new variant strain that's taking place in the United Kingdom and Denmark and some other related countries, the Netherlands, that might spread throughout the globe again. We'll see a need for a single family, paired housing, townhomes, more so than condominiums and mid-rises and high-rises. And so where you can have ingress and egress more easily, rather than being in a contagion environment where you're exposed to other people using the same corridors and the same hallways, the same staircases and elevators. So all of these things are, are interesting to note. I do believe that, we'll get back to a normalcy position again, but at the same time, what is normal? What is the new normal? And I think that everybody's guarded, everybody's maintaining social distances. We've learned to wear masks and respect other people. And I think that as we move into a new year with a new president and a new administration, we'll be much more socially conscious and concerned about our neighbor than we have in the last 4 years. So there's a whole series of business development opportunities. The other thing that we haven't stressed is that our global, not only are we going to see a wonderful direction throughout the United States, but we have so many global partners, and we're going to have increased relationships with Canada as we're starting to see some of the tariffs removed and decreased. The same with Mexico, the same with Central and Latin America. We'll see a continued growth within our business sector throughout Africa as an emerging continent for new business development activities. It boggles my mind. We've done some work with some Nigerians in the construction and building industry. I never realized that there are almost 200 million people living in Nigeria and almost 50 million people living in Sudan. And many of these African countries have large populations and have such a need for housing and such a need for building products that we're going to continue to see growth in the Far East, growth certainly throughout the United States and North America. And by working together and learning about new technologies and creating new products and services, we're going to be able to deliver real estate, commercial, retail, light industrial, and of course residential, with better defined products for everyone to enjoy, and to be able to enjoy homes that will be sustainable. And another direction, instead of building homes that are probably good for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, we're now seeing technology being introduced from Mexico, surprisingly, and Germany and Israel, where we're actually seeing new building products that can help us build homes that will be living for 200 years and more. And it's just fascinating to learn about the sustainable products. And we're working with one product called RSG 3D, which is a structural wall. And it's a wall system, a panelized system, where the material there's a truss system inside the panel, a steel truss system, and then it's sprayed with the exterior wall and interior wall. And if you can imagine this concrete that's sprayed into it or placed into it, you can eliminate. You don't have to worry about hurricanes because it takes advantage of or tornadoes. It withstands wind from upwards of 300 miles an hour. And the strongest tornado recorded in the United States is 240 miles an hour. We also have a situation with the same product where it has more than a 2-hour fire burn, which is almost fireproof in many instances. And then in addition to that, it's almost earthquake proof. All these tests were maintained and done for a 3-year period of time at the University of California's Building Science Department in Irvine. And on the Richter scale, we're at a 10-point that's recorded as the highest number. They pointed out that the resistance factor, they gave it a 9.0, but they said unofficially that the material exceeded a 10 on the Richter scale. And where it's being used throughout the United States, it's withstood fire. It's withstood all sorts of things. And by the way, Anatoly, it's less expensive than lumber. So, you start finding, and this technology is about 30 years old, but it takes time to educate. And one of the problems we do have in our industry is that since we enhanced our mechanical systems of plumbing and heating and venting and air conditioning and electrical, we are still building homes pretty much the same way that we did 80 years ago. So we need to look at new ways to adapt. Oh, this other product I told you about, the RSG 3D, it's also vermin proof and insect proof. And if you can imagine, it really speaks to a wonderful opportunity. And I think that with all these different things that sometimes we learn about, we're slow to adapt. And the more that we can become more adaptable as a building community, we're going to be creating better environments, excuse me, to live, to work, to play, and to learn. And I think that's where I see 2021 being a breakout year for even more technology and more ability to grow through delivering product. Every home should be wellness within your walls certified. Every home should have the EPA designations of WaterSense, Energy Star, and Indoor Air Plus. And instead of having a handful of builders, as we talked about, espousing that, all of our builders should be moving in that direction to further educate the population about creating a better lifestyle environment, a better working environment. So I think that as I look ahead to 2021, whether you're in Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Grand Junction, the mountains, et cetera, or you're in even Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, Savannah, Georgia, or Miami, I think you're going to continue to see great strides in the construction industry. And you're going to see more products that are sustainable and more products that are being built with the idea in mind to build a better green home, a better sustainable home, a better product that's delivering health and wellness so that we can have healthier people and enjoying our lives as we get older so that we can all be physically fit, just like you and Yana and your wonderful daughter, Mila.
It sounds like, and thank you for that. It sounds like, COVID had some unintended consequences on the positive side of things. Is it's made people realize, and it's made builders realize how important the home and the hearth is, and how important it is to invest in it and make sure that it is sustainable, that it is healthy, that we're building for a future, and not just as a place where we come, sleep and go back to work, but it's become much more instrumental part of our life. And we talked a lot about residential, and I guess just in closing, I wanted to touch on what is your take on the commercial side of real estate. So there's a lot of kind of balls up in the air right now on how that's going to land, with more and more remote workers being the negative side of things, that less people are showing up at the office. Then again, a lot of the office spaces are going to have to be set up differently. More for social distancing, more for the remote workers to be able to come in and take meetings and kind of, that hoteling space within the office. How do you see that expanding? I know that Denver has built out a tremendous amount of commercial real estate, everything from the, Denver Tech Center 30, 40 years ago, and have that evolution has continued into the city. How do you see that moving forward? What do you see happening with a lot of these buildings, which might be experiencing right now lower occupancy? Do you think they're going to be transformed into residential or into hospitality? Do you think that they're going to come back as kind of a different look into office space? Just in general, what is your take on that?
Well, I think that we're going to see an evolution of commercial, retail, residential. I think that we're learning a lot. Many employers who trust their employees and don't have to hover over them are going to be flexible. They're still going to need storage areas, meeting areas, conference areas, breakout rooms. And as a result, there will be a need to rethink the office space. We were visiting with an outstanding architect yesterday from Philadelphia, discussing the evolution of commercial space. And as a result, we are going to see changes. The office buildings will probably see some conversion of the office buildings into residential. We have in San Francisco and New York in particular, we have a number of buildings where we have retail in the lower levels, and then we have commercial, and then we have residential. Well, we're going to see more of that throughout the United States, but a conversion. We're going to see how these buildings will convert the space from floor to floor. We're not going to see necessarily a mixture where we'll have retail and offices and residential on the same floor. Yet at the same time, we'll see a difference in the way that things are developed. I do think that if we're able to move forward and come out of the industry, come out of the COVID into an industry, we're also seeing a transformation of the commercial brokers. We're seeing a lot of commercial brokers go into building residential communities. Right now, it's residential for rent. One of the customers that we have in New Zealand has been a commercial developer for years, and always wanted to break into residential. And like clockwork, they were doing $400 million in new projects in New Zealand and more. And New Zealand, by the way, population same size as Colorado, and it's very, very interesting. Approximately 6 million folks. And this company broke into residential more directly through Green Home Builders. The company's called Green Homes Builders New Zealand. And they're now the third largest builder delivering residential homes as a result of converting and seeing another profit center that it hadn't recognized. So as their commercial slowed down somewhat this year, their residential picked up dramatically. And we're also, the other thing that I didn't share earlier, some jurisdictions are also creating incentives for people to move into their communities. And we just heard, for example, Italy is going through a major transition. They're back into a lockdown scenario, I believe, but they came out through the government, their federal government, where they created tax incentives to renovate any existing building. Tremendous tax incentives, tax credits, tax deductions, et cetera, and also making money available for these construction opportunities. Well, we're starting to see that throughout Europe. We're starting to see that in Australia, in New Zealand. Australia just came out with a program that if you buy a home within a certain period of time to help stimulate the economy, there's another $25,000 benefit that you get as a result of making that situation. We haven't had that yet, but I think that having participated at the National Association of Home Builders Board for many years, we're seeing other directives. We had a lot of trouble with our building prices going up because of the tariffs that were created, and it really put an amazing impact. I mean, the other thing we didn't talk about is the change of the dynamics of manufacturers. You can't get the Whirlpool and General Electric appliances that you normally would have gotten in years gone by. They just can't deliver the products, the finished product, because they can't get the parts out of China because there's a rift between the United States with tariffs and situations. And as a result, you have companies like LG Electronics and Samsung that have increased market share dramatically over the last couple of years, and especially with COVID, where the parts couldn't get in here from China. So as a result, there's a dynamic in the changes that that we're seeing with all of the evolution and all these different aspects of the business. Commercially, it's phenomenal. We're actually seeing another company making a major play into the United States right now. It's been here for a number of years and it's done well in the Northeast, but it's a company called Beko Blumberg, which is the third largest appliance company in Europe. And the manufacturing is basically done in Turkey. And it's an online Turkish corporation. And at the same time, if you need a product, you're going to look for other sources. And there are 65 major manufacturing companies that specialize in appliances. We grew up in our marketplace, knowing Whirlpool, GE, and Sears. And Sears outsourced many of their appliances were built by Whirlpool and other manufacturers and private label. So we're seeing an evolution of products. But getting back to the point of the commercial, the question that you asked, yes, we're going to see a change. But I think it's going to be a while to really see it. Now, what you will see, and you are seeing in every major metropolitan area around the country and all the submarkets as well. And we have over 300 markets in the United States that are somewhat different, a little culturally different. You pointed out the difference between Chicago and Denver to me over the last number of conversations we've had. And as a result, you're going to see shopping centers that will be repurposed. You're going to see big box retail environments and warehouses that will be repurposed. The good news is that the utilities are to these sites. And as a result, we're seeing a lot of repurposing. There was a big news article about the Trump casino in Atlantic City being demolished, I think yesterday or the day before. And it's about repurposing. And as a result, the more that we can repurpose, we then work within the business corridors and in the residential areas to create more mixed use opportunities of commercial, retail, residential. And as a result, there's just a lot of repurposing that will be considered. But I think that we'll see more of a mixed use environment in order to grow the business platform. So hopefully, I'm answering your questions. And of course, over the next 6 hours, as we continue this conversation, I'll be more than happy to address any and all aspects.
No, this has been great. I mean, 2020 did come with a lot of challenges all around, but it also did create a lot of opportunities. And it sounds like, your take on 2021 and beyond is a very positive one, that we're going to take a lot of what we learned and a lot of where we shifted this year and really have that come to life in the coming years. And you're optimistic not only about the market, but also about the marketplace, about Denver continuing to evolve and continue to utilize a lot of the space that does have access to water and so forth to be able to bring in new populations and then become more metropolitan and then really continue that growth pattern.
Yes, and all the services are going to be necessary. We have an increased need for medical. We have an increased need for transportation resources, and all the school, as we spoke about earlier, all the major things that drive people to an area to enjoy a better lifestyle, environment, and experience. The other thing that I would like to leave with you too, the good sign is that we saw a major slowdown of financial offerings from the financial investment banking firms and also the banks. Everybody said, "Oh, let us review your loans, your interest in developing new projects," but there has been very little development of passing those requests into formal loans. Since the election, and as we get closer to the inauguration, we're seeing more and more relaxation from the banking industry, from the financial industry. And there's a major sign that's come back to all of us that more money, is plentiful, and there's more money coming into the United States as a result of the direction with the Biden administration coming into play. And I'm very, very encouraged by the Europeans that we're also involved with some transactions coming into the United States and several large development opportunities. And it's just been very rewarding to look at the new direction, the new path, the new hope, and the new opportunity for all of us living in the United States, and especially in being able to enjoy Colorado.
And I think even beyond the Biden administration, I think kind of as a closing note on that point, I think we as a world have had to overcome the same exact challenges over the course of the last year. And we see that we're a lot more alike than we are different. And I think those similarities are going to cause us to work together on far more than developing a vaccine, but on just making the world a better place and being able to work together. We showed right now that countries that have been at odds for years were able to come together over the course of the last 9 months and collectively work on a problem because it was the same problem. The COVID didn't see borders, languages, or religions. It hit us all exactly the same across across the board, and I think that was an eye opener for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting when you say that, and we've long been a country that harvests immigrants and gives everyone a chance to grow, and we're all, I mean, frankly, we're all from immigrant families, and I mean, even the Native American Indians, those were immigrants as well, and so when you think about the resilience, of our marketplace, of our country, one of the strengths has always been the ability to reach out, to try to exceed your goal and maturate more successes because of the pioneers who came here with the hope and prayer of getting a better life for their families. Maybe not for their generation, but for future generations. And at the same time, it's been also very interesting to me to see exactly what you've just said, Anatoly, where so many people have come together from all different backgrounds. I read an article that two of the founders or the discoverers of the one of the vaccines to eliminate COVID were folks from Turkey, a husband and wife team who worked in a laboratory, and it's just been fascinating. But when you think about all of the contributors, and we can call them Americans, but at the end of the day, without question, they are. But they all have different bloodlines and different roots. And as a result, we are a nation of united souls, united people. And better said, united we stand globally, divided we fall. E pluribus unum, and I think it's just great. And I've certainly enjoyed the opportunity to be with you today. What other questions might you have before we conclude today's visit?
I think we covered everything pretty well. I mean, we definitely covered 2020, and I personally am excited about 2021 based on everything that you're saying. I agree with you that there will be a transformation of commercial space, and I think from a business standpoint, there will be a tremendous amount of opportunity there. I think as people are going to be able to get out, I think some of our interests and priorities changed. I think we're going to look more for family-based, activity-based things to do. So I think a lot of those big box stores are going to find that they become new homes for those activity-based type businesses. Super excited that I got a chance to move to Denver in this year, and then to kind of discover a new lifestyle, new life that's very unique to Colorado, and looking forward to discovering more through this winter and beyond. And also wanted to thank you for your time devoting to answering a lot of these questions and kind of talking us through not just what happened this year, but the impact it's had based on the 40 years of history that you've had in the industry and where you see it going. So it's not, a narrow view of looking just from beginning of this year, but in context of the overall evolution of Denver from where it was in the early 80s to where it is today. So really appreciate your time on this.
Well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure getting to know you and Yana. And we're so grateful that you've come to Colorado to share your experience and help us all grow and be better at all of our jobs and better with our lifestyle too. You and your family are wonderful and creating a great asset to our state and our metropolitan area of Denver. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be with you today. Our operators are standing by, and as soon as you're ready to purchase a piece of real estate, to call your permanent resident, we'll be there to help you at a moment's notice. So thank you.
Thank you.